Yes, ma'am.
Well, thank you everybody for joining us today for our Representation Matters workshop. I can get my slides to advance. My name is Grace Carter. I'm the Associate Director of Community Impact here at ArtsNow. I work with Nicole Mullet, who is our Executive Director. It's just two of us, and we serve as the local arts and culture agency for Summit County. So we support the arts in a lot of different ways. We do that through advocacy, through funding mechanisms, and of course by shepherding and resourcing the Akron Summit Cultural Plan. One finding of the cultural plan was that 97% of Akron and Summit County residents prioritize true equity as a part of Akron's future. So with that, this is our statement of cultural equity, which I think is really at the forefront of this project and conversation we're going to be talking about today. Which is the strength and future of Akron Summit reside in our ability to be an inclusive community where all people are acknowledged, welcomed, and respected. Our arts and culture assets are a tribute to our individuality and shared humanity. Together, we will create a future where we inspire authentic learning, celebrate our uniqueness. I have to move my Zoom bar out of the way, and cultivate creativity. And here are the 10 key priorities of the Akron Cultural Plan, with equity and access being priorities 1 and 2. So with those priorities in mind, which were created by and for the community, the Arts and Culture Inclusion Council was formed. This is a program of ArtsNow that works towards advancing equity in the arts and culture sector and also presents professional development workshops like this one. So if you're interested in learning more about the Arts and Culture Inclusion Council and reading the bios of the members who serve on it, you can visit our website. A direct outcome of the Inclusion Council was a project called SEEN, Advancing Equity in Summit County. And when I say this is one of my favorite projects that I think I've gotten to work on in my arts career so far, I really, really, truly mean that. And it's because of the speakers that you'll get to hear from today. But this project involved hiring Summit County photographers and videographers to capture content at local arts and culture events and showcase the diversity and vibrancy of the sector, with the idea being to compile a database of content that is authentically representative of our arts and culture sector here. So rather than having random stock photos that don't really tell the story of Summit County, we wanted to create this database that the funders that paid into the project could pull from, like the Akron Summit Convention and Visitors Bureau, as well as the organizations that we visited and collected content from, to use in their marketing, with the idea that seeing diversity, seeing people who look like you represented in advertising is going to make you more likely to want to participate in the arts and culture sector. So with that, I want to introduce you to the photographers and videographers that were a part of the SEEN project, as well as Ivy Johnson, who is a member of the Arts and Culture Inclusion Council, who will be moderating today's discussion. So I'm going to stop talking and let them go around and introduce themselves.
Well, hey, everybody. I'm Robert Greer. I am a storyteller within the different mediums that I create in as an artist, and I'm from Akron. So that's me.
Hi, everybody. I'm Tyron Hoisten. I am a jack of all trades, a Tyron of all trades, but mainly I'm a videographer, and happy to be here today.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth. So happy to be here. I am a photographer and also a yoga teacher in Akron, and I love both of those things so much, and I'm grateful to be here.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ivy Johnson. I'm the administrative assistant for the Akron Civic Theater, as well as the producer's representative for the Millennial Theater Project. I also serve as a member of the Arts and Culture Inclusion Council. I'm so excited to be a part of this and to moderate the discussion today.
Thanks, everybody. So before we get into the panel questions, there's a few figures that I wanted to show, which is some of the data behind the scene project. This was what really drove the Inclusion Council to decide that this was something that was going to be worth ArtsNow investing in. So research shows that representation in business leads to more efficient ad spend. I'll share these slides out after the workshops that you can take a look at these articles. They're really interesting. It was definitely a lot of good information in there. 62% of consumers report that inclusivity impacts their perception of a brand, and 59% of consumers say they're more likely to trust a brand whose ads feature people who look like them. So with all of that said, I'll let Ivy take it away with some of the questions that are going to help you learn more about how your business or nonprofit can work towards authentic representation in advertising and some of what we learned from this project. So I will go ahead and take the slides down so that we can all see each other better.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Grace. So I wanted to just have the speakers introduce themselves again, but just give us a little bit more depth of like who they are as a person and what drew them to the Scene Project and why were they inspired to work on this initiative. And I want to start with Rob.
All right, wonderful. So when I say storyteller, I mean that I am trying to capture or tell a story based on things that people don't normally see. And as an artist, that's really what we're about, is being able to capture things that people don't notice and bring it to real life. So one of the things about me is like life is very inspiring to me. I look for encouragement in all things. And I wanted to be a part of this project because being able to capture the essence of who we are, not only as artists, but the culture of our city, what we do, what we represent, was very important to me. It was one of the things that stood out that made this project really attractive to me. And having the opportunity to meet entrepreneurs, artists, businesses, just made the whole experience for me just wonderful. So that is like one of the best things I can think of as far as like why I wanted to be a part of it. So
that's amazing. And I honestly like that you say that you group everything with like you're a storyteller. I think that's so cool. Tyron, what about you?
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate those comments, Rob. I have to echo a little bit of that. Again, as you heard before, my name is Tyron. You know, I'm a videographer, among other things. And kind of to steal from Rob, you know, it really is about storytelling. I recently rechanged my video company name to Video 306. And a lot of people ask why 306, and that's my favorite question to be asked. You know, Akron is, you know, one of our nicknames is the city on a hill. You know, the word Akron literally comes from a Greek word that means peak or the top, and that 306 is actually Akron's elevation point. And so I want to kind of infuse that in everything I do and tell stories from a high point, stories that can live past me or stories that have a potential to do something or move something. And so that's one reason I was happy to be a part of this. One, because Nicole extended the offer, and as Nicole knows, when she calls, I usually come somehow. I don't know how I make that work, but and it's just also an awesome opportunity to be a part of an initiative that makes a stronger Akron. I think we need more things like this, and I'll mention more points like this throughout the discussion. These things make a stronger Akron, and I think that's important, especially in a world where there's so much division. We need more things like this. Thank you.
That was amazing. Thank you so much, Tyron. I am in awe with all of the speakers today, but I've personally known Tyron for a long time, and I'm just so proud of him. Last but certainly not least, we have the lovely Elizabeth.
Hi, so happy to be here. I am so grateful to be part of this project. I've been a photographer, I mean, like my whole life, but more like seriously the past few years, and I've gotten to photograph a lot of different things in Akron in so many settings, whether it's weddings or arts events or like political events. And my mind immediately went to a very similar place as the two other speakers of just that, like, in my photography, my goal is never to like pose people and say like, look at the camera and be who I want you to be. Like, I just want to capture people in their true essence, and through doing that, like, remember the beauty in that of just allowing people to be who they are and capturing that and like sealing that moment in time and delivering it to the world. And I really try to be intentionally inclusive and diverse in my photography, and I want to be a safe space for people to be in front of the camera. And I was so honored to be a part of this project because I've grown up in Akron my whole life. I work at Yoga Squared. I've gotten to meet so many people in the Akron community through that. And being given the opportunity to photograph the people who live here and the artists I know and the artists I don't know and the people I do and don't know. It's just such a great honor to create something that has such a huge potential impact of just allowing us to really witness and celebrate the community we live in.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. I love how you use the phrase safe place. And like, I think that's amazing. I think that's something that everybody should have as a safe place. But the fact that you're creating a safe place in front of the camera with people may not be as, comfortable with the camera, like it's really nice. So I really appreciate that. Our next question is for Grace and Nicole. How did you select the photographers slash videographers for this project? And then what qualities were you looking for when picking the people for the project?
Yeah, so we knew that we wanted to hire photographers and videographers that are from Summit County, that are in the area, and that were really going to understand how to tell the story and that would connect with the mission of the project. So we wanted to have a diverse group of photographers and videographers, and each person who's on this panel today really has a different creative eye, which I think made the project even richer than if we had just had, say, one photographer. Having three who each has a different artistic style just really brought a lot of perspective to the content that we got, which was amazing. But I will say too that all three of them really have a way of connecting with the community and connecting with the people who they're photographing, and so you can really see that in the work. You can tell that people feel comfortable, and I think overall the content that they captured just really captures that spirit of Summit County, which is exactly what we were going for, because the whole idea was that we would have content that was representative and authentic to our community. And Tyron and Elizabeth and Rob are all obviously extremely qualified and very talented individuals. So we were really, really excited to have them on this project. And I think the reason why, I don't think I know the reason why it turned out so well is because of their hard work. So thank you.
Oh my gosh, Grace, that was amazing. And honestly, one of the reasons that pushed me to this project was Grace's, like, just she was so excited about it and she was just talking about it the whole time, and it really, you could feel her excitement, and it made me excited for you guys as well. But I just loved hearing Grace speak, so thank you, Grace. Nicole, what about you?
I think Grace, anything I would add would be duplicative of what Grace shared, but I think that we can absolutely testify that everybody who is involved in this project is a storyteller with a deep commitment and passion to the people behind and in front of the lens. And that's something that you can't fabricate that. You can be excellent at your craft, but to be excellent at your craft and also care deeply about the communities that you're representing is a very special gift. And so we're very grateful to have worked with these three.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I think it's amazing that, like I said, when I told Grace, when I was talking to Grace about the opportunity, I thought it was amazing that these three got the opportunity to go out and to represent Akron authentically. I think that's amazing. So I do have a question for the speakers as well as Grace and Nicole. Yes, I'm putting you guys on the spot again. What does authentic representation mean to you? And like, why is that so important? And then we'll start with Rob.
Well, for sure, it's just about trust. So people can trust your brand. I mean, people knowing what you represent, knowing what you're about is authentic representation. It is the essence of like what we see online. So for instance, my example would be, so you see posts that come out on social media and people that like resonate with the post, they'll reshare it, they'll send it to their friends for them to see it. So that's the connection that they have with that. And it allows people to be able to not only like be a part of whatever your mission is or your direction as a business, but it also then you have them as followers and you have them as part of your heart, but what you represent. So that's why it's important to me.
Yes. Tyron, what do you think?
You know, that's an interesting question. I think what authentic representation means to me, I think it means putting an intentional effort to, in terms of this discussion, I guess, putting an intentional effort to show people as people and not people as props. I think that we've seen that a whole lot. You know, for example, you know, the Black History Month, there's an influx of Black people and stuff and being invited to speak. But then the next month that goes away, you know, or, you know, Women's History Month, there's an influx of women on stuff and then that goes away. So how can we make sure that these things are consistent so that, you know, when Black History Month or Women's History Month or any other, these other things come up and you do that, people don't look at you sideways. Because I think the interesting thing we're seeing about 2024, it started since probably 2020, is people are on to BS in every single area. And particularly with marketing, people are suspected and looking at things sideways. And so I think just an intentional effort to be consistent and make sure that all of your people are visible all the time, I think that's what it means to me.
Awesome. Thank you so much. What do you think, Elizabeth?
Yeah, I feel like to me, authentic representation really means like creating space to be yourself, like your whole self, and not feeling like you have to fit into a box that has been created for you by other people. And I thought about this question. I feel like it's easier for me to just answer it like from my own experience. Like as a queer person, I felt like growing up there was nothing like, or like it was very limited. You know, I had like Ellen as my model of, yeah, and that was it. So and like lacking that, it's difficult to to know the places you can go. I lacked models of like happy queer women like living joyful lives. And so when that is represented in media and it's like a normal thing, it makes people feel safer to present that to the world. So it's incredibly important, and I'm glad that we're here giving more of it.
Yes, I really appreciate you highlighting the fact that as a queer person growing up, you didn't have many like role models or models. And as a trans person growing up, that is the same thing. So basically what I'm trying to say is the reason it's so important to me is because it makes me feel a little bit more confident with doing what I'm doing and the way I'm doing it. So Grace, what about you?
I'll go back to Elizabeth's point earlier about people being comfortable, and that I think creating that environment where people, like Tyron said, they don't feel like a prop, they don't feel nervous or uncomfortable in front of the camera. And I say that as somebody who, as soon as I see a camera pointed in my face, I like just shrivel up and like armadillo myself. I'm like, no, 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 you're not gonna, you're not gonna put me on any video. But being able to create that environment where people feel like they can be themselves, even if they are being, recorded on video or getting their picture taken. Because I think that like what you see in the content that we got from Scene is that it's really just people enjoying and being in the moment. And you'll see once I put the slides back up later, we'll go through some more of the images. It feels like you're there is what I always say. Like every time I look at it, I'm like, it feels, even though, I mean, most of those situations I was there, but even for the photo shoots that I didn't go to, it feels like you're in the moment with them. And I think that that's what makes a compelling and dynamic image. So I think authentic representation means a lot of things, but that's just one of them, where people are feeling comfortable and they feel like people. They don't feel like they're fodder for marketing. If that makes sense.
Awesome. Yes, no, that makes a lot of sense. Nicole, do you have anything to add?
I feel like they covered it beautifully, Elizabeth. I love what you said about joy. And I felt that come through so much, especially with the work that you did around Pride. That whole experience, just those photographs made me feel joy, and in the memory of it. So I thought I loved your comment, Elizabeth.
Awesome. So going on, so these are the questions for the speakers. How can businesses and nonprofits get to know the community that they're serving in order to create more representative advertisements? And actually, let's switch it up. Let's start with Elizabeth.
Okay. I feel like you just have to be involved and like know what's going on, know what events are going on and how you can support in those ways. I feel like through my work at Yoga Squared, I've seen how they have honestly done a very good job of doing that, and like partnering with local organizations, and just like seeing ways you can work together, rather than like expecting people to come to you. Like, go see what are people doing, what do they need, what are they saying, just listening.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. What about you, Tyron?
Um, I would say that community, first of all, my opinion, has become a good grant word, right? People put community in the grant. It's good for the mission because it looks good, it sounds good, it's going to get money. And I've observed that some people use that word and throw that around, but in reality, it's not really about the community. It's about all other factors. So I think the first thing to do is to start there. When you say community, do you truly mean community? I'm glad to see some at Metro Parks here because when I did Leadership Akron, one of the best days was when we went to visit the Summit Lake Nature Center. I hope I'm saying it right. I thought it was so cool that they built that facility. They redid that facility with the community's input. And I know that's a different type of example. It's not quite marketing, but I think it speaks to how can your people truly be involved and be seen and be represented, so that when you are putting stuff out, you are not speaking at them, but you're making sure that it speaks to them.
Mhm. Amazing. What about you, Rob?
Well, I think that community is the word. So that is the word. But getting to know your community means that you're showing up for your community. You're showing up for them for different programming. You're showing up for them in different capacities that they are in. So you're getting to know who they are, getting to know the essence of the community. So I'm a resident of some art space, and I think we do a really good job here of bringing people together. So being able to know what's happening on one side of the city, allowing us to be able to have like a big database of what's going on so people can actually attend and get to know like what the different artists are, what's happening, what programming exists. And that's a representation of like wherever you're trying to go as a business or a company or a nonprofit. Like you got to get to know the people that you're going to be involved in, the people that you're servicing, the people that you want to be a part of, what the direction that you're going in or your vision. So I think that's really something that needs to be attacked, is getting to know the heart of where you are and where you're operating.
Amazing. Everybody gave really, really amazing points, and basically it helps the community feel seen. So I think that's awesome. Why does seeing people in that we know or that look like us impact our trust on the brand? So I'm gonna start with Tyron this time.
Yeah, I think, and I'm gonna go back to what I said before. People are onto the bull, people are onto the BS, people are hip to the game. I'm using some old. I say hip to the game. What am I gonna say next? Jive turkey? Who says that? Anyway, I think people are paying attention and are waking up to the fact that some people are being used, some people are being propped up as caricatures, and we've seen that so much. Ask me your question again. Say that question one more time.
So why does seeing people we know or who we look like,
There you go.
why
There you
does
go.
that help
There
us
you
build trust?
There you go. So I think that when we see people who who look like us, or not just look like us, but all people, I think it kind of reminds you that this is something that's for everybody. One brand that I think does that very well is Apple. Apple shows everybody, all kinds of folks, and I don't think anyone thinks twice about it. I've never heard Apple being accused of a whole lot of unethical things. I think we all understand that that's something that's for us, and they do a good job, I think, of making us all feel that way. That's why all of us have, a lot of us have, an iPhone or interact with some Apple products. So that's my answer there.
Awesome. Elizabeth, what about you?
So like seeing people like us makes us trust a brand more, absolutely. Because I mean, on the flip side of that, similar to what Tyron said, when stereotypes are perpetuated, that honestly does just like a lot of harm to the communities that the stereotype is being forced onto. So when we're able to like break out of that a little bit, or a lot, hopefully, and be able to recognize like the expansiveness of our humanity, it helps us to feel seen. It helps you to feel safe to be who you are, and yeah, it just allows you to feel safe to express your full humanity. And I mean, just thinking about like I'm also a wedding photographer, so this has been on my mind. I've seen people talking about it a lot, where like in inquiry forms, people have like bride and groom as like the only language used, which is not inclusive at all. So to feel represented in a way that's like, just to change the language a little bit, saying like spouse, like partner one, partner two, it's simple to do that and to create representation for a larger group of people, that then allows people to just show up and to know that they will be held in that space.
Awesome. What about you, Rob? Why do you think it's important to see people that look like you? Why does that make you trust the brand more?
Well, I think it pushes us past what's visible. So you see people, you have similar experiences that you can recognize, especially from video and photo. It just builds credibility between like your audience and your brand. And you have to ask yourself, at some point, like whether you're creating the content around what you think people want to see, what they want to experience, or are you connecting them with your vision of what's meant to be for them? So that's seeing people like myself draws me closer to whatever product that is, like Tyron mentioned with Apple. Like I could see myself in, like, honestly, like all of us go through the same things. It just looks different for us. So the
Mhm.
commonality between us as human beings is what's portrayed when we see like things that are similar to us.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I think all of those points are very amazing. Personally, why I trust brands that use people that look like me is I just feel more comfortable with that brand. I feel like I can let myself go, and as Elizabeth said, it creates that safe space. Like I feel safe in that space, and I feel a lot better because, they're working with people that look like me and stuff like that. So, um, going on, what common mistakes do companies make when trying to be authentic slash representative and inclusive? We touched a lot on this with Tyron being over the BS. So I will start with Tyron.
I think some common mistakes. I think as showing people as one thing. So if somebody's gay, you're going to show them as a gay person. If they're trans, you're going to show them as a trans person. If they're black, they're going to be a black person. But I've noticed that when it is other people, generally, like a white man, and this isn't to put anybody down, this is just a fact, right? When we see this, they're not, it's not about that. It's never ever mentioned. And so one thing I think is interesting, there was a show in the 1980s called Dynasty, and there was a woman on the show called her name was Diane Carroll. She was the first black woman to be included on that show. And when the writers were talking to her, they said, we don't know how to write for a black woman. We just do not know how to write for a black woman. They said, well, write like you writing for a white straight man, and it's going to be perfect. And that turned out to be one of the most popular characters in the show because they wrote her as a person. They wrote her as a person. So I think that's the most important thing, knowing that you don't need to switch something up because it's me. Give me the same treatment that you would as any other person. I always like to strike down the idea that marketing needs to be different because it's a different group of people, that because it is black people or because it is any other people, that there needs to be something so different. I think that's ridiculous because everybody shops at Walmart. Everybody goes to McDonald's. They don't switch stuff up. Everybody goes to Apple. They don't switch stuff up, or Samsung, wherever you go, they don't switch stuff up. So on a smaller scale, don't think you have to either. Just by showing a person that is a different color or different anything from what is normal, putting a variety in, I think will speak volumes, and you don't have to do much more than that. Don't complicate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tyron. What about you, Rob?
Well, I do agree with what Tyron says. Of course, it's very important um, for companies to be able to see that perspective. I do think what's appealing in this is that companies really have a hard time showing who they truly are. Like they're not really truthful or honest. And I think honesty is one of the things, especially for me as an artist, that I can see right through. I could see through bad projects. I could see through bad programming. I could see or notice when someone is not telling me the truth. And it's a track record, as I mentioned before. It's building trust, and I think that goes a long way with like how it starts is being honest with people up front, letting them know exactly what you're about. And I know that's hard to do with companies. It's hard to do with marketing. But really, what are you about? Because that's ultimately is how your longevity is going to last. Is when people buy into your brand, they buy into who you are, they buy into what you're about, and they look at what you have done, who you represent, who you are connected to. Those things bring the authenticness of who you are, and then it allows us to be able to follow you and cheer for you and want to see you do well. So that's my opinion.
Thank you so much, Rob. What about you, Elizabeth?
Yeah, I feel like, first of all, I deeply agree with what both of you guys just said as well. But I feel like it's also easy to tell when a company is just being performative in something they're posting rather than being authentic. I know Tyron touched on this a little bit earlier as well, but like thanks for your rainbow on June 1st, but are your like company values genuinely aligned with supporting the queer community? And are you doing that every other day of the year? And are you creating a space where queer people feel comfortable going to and listening to and represented authentically?
Awesome. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. I think you guys made up some really good points. Before we go on to our last question, I did want to extend the mic to Drew Williams. He is from Summit DD, and I kind of just wanted to ask the question of why Summit DD supported the Scene Project. What about the Scene Project made it so that you guys were like, no, we have to do this? I just want a little bit of context for that.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, first off, we were really appreciative to be part of the Scene Project. So within the work that we do of supporting people of all ages who have physical and intellectual disabilities, being seen is something that they're constantly striving for within their life, within their community. They are often, Tyron talked about this, being defined by a particular box. And because sometimes of people's physical disabilities, it's the first thing people see. And then that is how they are viewed and defined. And so what attracted us to Scene is we have folks that happen to have a disability, but they are artists. And they have been put out as artwork by people with disabilities, not just artwork by people. And so what Scene and our partnership with Summit Art Space brought to us is an opportunity for these artists to showcase their work just as artists. And so being able to document that and have photos and representation of them being in that space, just being artists, was beautiful. And it was amazing to be able to go back to those artists and show them that work. And that them having the opportunity to just have their artwork be artwork based on who they are, not as someone with a disability. So, and I will just shout out to Elizabeth, who came not only for a closing reception for an artist that we are connected with, but also the Inclusive Summit Art Space Art Walk. And those were fantastic opportunities to highlight the work of artists. And it was really great. So thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you very much. We really appreciate people or organizations that are here for the movement and are understanding of what we're trying to do here in Akron. Last question for you guys. So what are the next steps? We talked about a lot of things of, you know, the negatives and stuff like that, but what are the next steps that we can take today to cultivate more authentic representation in marketing efforts? Oh, I'm sorry, I need to pick someone. I'm gonna pick on Elizabeth.
Okay. I feel like a good next step, and this is something I asked myself too, and in my own like photography work, is just to be very honest with yourself and in what you're producing, ask like, who is this excluding, and how can I stray away from that, and what can I bring in to allow more people to feel included. I feel like that's a good starting point to diversify and bring in more, as like an additive mindset. That is a good like step forward.
Yes, no, I completely agree with you. And I think that's amazing points that you've brought up. I think also a lot of people should always, have that question of, am I getting someone, and there's a way to do it where you're not just pandering to one, one region, or there's a way to do it where you can do it correctly. Um, let's see, Rob, what do you think?
All right. Well, I'm going to start with Drew because like what you mentioned as far as how his organization like connected, especially in that art walk, and how the artists were able to see themselves as artists. That that is what that's what we signed up for this project, is those feelings, not only for us to be able to deliver them, but then also for all of the organizations to be able to show like this is how we operate. So I think that is like the start of where things are, is being able to recognize what you're trying to accomplish, who you are serving, and then being able to show them your heart so they know exactly what you represent, who you are, and they can feel you. So, and I mean like feel you so they feel like they matter. And I think that's where like the next step comes from, like pretty much everyone in this circle here or in this panel, is being able to identify what's next. Like how can we make a bigger impact for the people that we serve?
That's amazing, because that's amazing. What about you, Tyron?
Yeah, so I decided a while ago that Akron was it. I love Akron. I love this city. I'm pretty passionate about this city, and I want to stay here and live my life here. I do want to go on vacation sometime, but I do want to always come back to Akron and do my part in my own corner to make sure that it continues to get better. And I think we all have to do that. And if you're here, I'm guessing that you're pretty passionate and committed to Akron as well. I think we have to recognize the power that media has to shape, to inform. There's a quote that says, "Those who control the words and the images control the thoughts and the minds of the people." And that's media. And I think that one thing I've noticed, and I sit back on the couch late at night sometimes and I just kind of get confused. When I look at media on a broader level and some of the things that I see and the things that I don't see, is really confusing. I'm wondering, is there an intentional effort to shift people, to get people against each other? It really seems intentional and frustrating. I can't control that, but I can control what I do here in Akron, and I want to encourage you all to do that as well. When it comes to this allowing people to be seen and to be represented, I have to say I am totally done with trying to appeal to people's good nature. I'm done with saying, be nice to me because you just should. I'm not into that. I think we should get a little bit selfish. I think we should recognize that you doing this small act to make people feel welcome, to include people, to make people feel human and be seen as human just like you, I think that would make this city stronger, which would make it better for your children, which would make it better for you, make safer streets, more opportunities. So it's not about me. It's not about you doing something nice for me. It's not about you doing something nice for any other minority group, whatever you want to call it. This is about all of us and our city, this thing that we are sharing. That's it.
Yes, no, I love Akron as well. So the fact that, you touched on, Akron is it. Akron is it, like Akron can be so amazing, but we have to put in the work to make it so amazing and to make sure that everyone is being seen, no matter who they are or what gender, what race, or what nationality you go for. That's all my questions that I have. I'm going to turn it back over to Grace.
Well, thank you so much, Ivy, Tyron, Rob, and Elizabeth. I think this was great. Once again, like just from this conversation, I think you all can probably tell why it was just such a great project to get to work with them, because they really do care about making Akron a better place. And I think that, we have a lot of faces on this call too who are doing a lot of hard work to make our city better. So I think that now we'll go ahead and open it up for any questions that any of our attendees have for our panel. Does anybody have anything they want to ask? Don't be shy.
I have
And
a
if not, we can
question.
turn you loose. Go ahead, Nicole.
Sorry, just as everyone was about to go grab lunch, I was wondering if the photographers could talk a little bit about were there any challenges that you experienced going through a project like this, or things that you wish you would have done differently or thought through differently? Or the answer can also be like, no, Grace thought of everything for us, but I have to imagine there are things that maybe as you go through, and it looks like Rob might have a response.
Well, I believe that the way everything was presented and set up for us as artists, as photographers and videographers, it was pretty much on us to be able to create the environment that we needed to be able to shoot and film in. And that's really on us. So I think there wasn't anything that I missed or I wish would have been different. I truly appreciate being able to be put in the atmosphere with the different organizations that we work with, so I could meet them. I get to know who they are. I get to see their face. I get to see what they do, what kind of impact that they made. So I think that there wasn't anything that I felt like was missed. I just believe, as a professional, like it's our responsibility to be able to show up and do us. So I am energetic. I am like I'm in people's faces. I'm honest, and I'm nice at what I do. So I just make things happen, and I want people to have that reflection of what they see from my work. And I think that's what Scene was all about, which is one of the reasons why it was so amazing for me.
Rob
I hope
makes
that answered
friends
your question.
everywhere he goes. So Rob is very good at putting people at ease. Does anybody else have any questions that they want to ask? Go ahead, Lila.
So I'm Leela Griffiths. I'm the chairperson of the Stowe Arts Commission. And if anybody is familiar with the city of Stowe, we don't have a lot of representation in the diversity, etc. And I would like to improve that, but also when we're doing things, we have difficulty with our language, like the language that we put in our call to artists, and in creating exhibits. We cannot do an exhibit if we don't have enough people submitting to it. We tried to do a veterans art show, and we had one veteran submit to it, we struggled with that. We are going to try again. We're kind of pivoting and redoing that. But I guess what I'm trying to, and I've been in contact with Nicole a lot and leaned on her expertise a lot, and Grace is also, we're working on an arts master plan, but it's slowly moving. So it's trying to find the resources to get people, because we don't need just Stowe residents in our exhibits. We want a wider variety of people to exhibit and to participate, and it's just how to get that word out. we have a lot of hoops that we have to jump through as well, which is a struggle. But any advice that you can give us that we can try and implement would be great.
Okay, well, I have an answer to that question. So I think, so we're talking about authentic representation, and you mentioned like a veterans art exhibit. So like the easy, just from my point of view, is you have that one veteran, is the one veteran is the one that's going to be attracting the others. So you have to use like use the veteran, or you use the people that are involved in the projects to be able to expand why is this important for me as a veteran to be here in this show.
Yeah.
Like, what am I going to gain out of it? Like, what do I want to see? It's the call to action, but it's coming from them and not from you as an organization per se. So I want to work with other veterans that are artists. So who can come and be with me? Like that is a call that they are very used to working together in the field and being as far as in military. So that is a like direction or a ploy I could say that would be very useful for you to be able to draw others out.
Thank you.
I would add too, I would jump in just to say too, it sounds like this is something that's new, that's happening in the area. So you're coming up with this. I think that sounds really, really awesome. So I don't know all the details, but one of my favorite quotes to kind of look at everything I do is the idea that good ideas aren't practical. So I don't say that to be discouraging, but maybe this idea might need to be tweaked a little bit. How can we tweak this where maybe make it a little more appealing? Maybe the name needs to change. So I would tell you to look at all of those areas, but keep moving forward with it, but be open to tweaking in some areas so that the people will come in. But don't give up.
One of my favorite sayings is persistence beats resistance.
That's it.
So
That's it.
we will keep trying, we'll pivot, we'll make it happen.
Good.
Thank you.
I think PETA has her hand up, Grace, and I just realized I was not on mute that entire time. I am so sorry.
I didn't hear anything, but PETA, go ahead.
Oh, just to also just answer that question a little bit too, because Akron Soul Train, for those of you who don't know, we're in downtown Akron. We're an artist residency program, and we struggle just like you. Was it Layla? Trying to get people to submit for our residency program. And so I just want you to know one thing that we have done is really try to go out in the community to meet people, talk to people, and then partner with organizations that can help spread the word as well. So, just like Rob was saying, find someone to help share that information who is in the community. That's something that we are looking at, and I definitely encourage you to do it. I think it's just any kind of collaboration you can have. And Akron Soul Train would be happy to share that because we love providing artists with information about opportunities. So if you ever want to send stuff our way, we would happily put it out for you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I know one of our members is actually, he does a lot of work with you, Raymond Dean.
All right, I think we're getting to the end of the hour. So unless anybody else has any questions, I think we can wrap up. But thank you again so much to Ivy, Rob, Elizabeth, and Tyron for sharing today and for being part of the project and just your ongoing commitment to Akron. All these folks are always involved with a lot of different projects at a time and are busy people. So we really appreciate all your hard work. And thank you to everybody for joining today. I will share out the slides and Nicole put a link in the chat to a survey that you can fill out. It'll help us learn more about how we can continue to do these professional development workshops in the future in a really thoughtful way. But thank you again for joining. Let us know if you have any questions. You can always reach out, and we hope that you'll join us for some of our future workshops.